Hello everyone, this is Michael Kelty. I'm going to do a quick example of the kind of thing that I get up to here as a database developer in the public sector, specifically in the behavioral health sector. What I have here is a training and personnel system. This is an in-house database application that I created many years ago. One of the things that we have to keep track of here is an enormous amount of training. This system has other stuff like personnel actions and background checks and all that sort of stuff, but we're just going to focus on the training and training requirements today. Because here is the scenario. Because we have to take so many different trainings and they are required, we have a LMS or a learning management system that we use. We've had a couple of different ones over the years, but the one that we have right now is NeoGov LEARN. I'll bring that up over here. But first, let me show you the report that I usually run for people. I keep track of kind of all of the status of their training requirements, and I run this report for them. This is a demo database. It only has me in it and really none of the records that normally I would have. In the actual live system, this report has lots of useful information, but here all it's doing is telling me what the requirements are for this position, because in the database that I created, I actually tie the requirements to the position, not to the person. And the reason why I did that is so that people come and go a lot, but the requirements actually stay the same for the position, and they can be different for each position. So I wanted to do that one time, and then people come and go, and then the actual training records would be tied to the person, but whether or not it was a requirement for the position would be tied to the position. So anyway, enough of that. If you know, you know. So this is what it looks like for me right now. We're going to try to change that by entering some records. Okay. So what I've got over here is our learning management system, which I said at the moment is NeoGov LEARN, and I brought up a training activity record. And I'm only looking at my records. I don't want to share some PII for any of the other employees. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to put this on any kind of a public forum. So I'm just looking at my records. I'm going to make sure that I select all 36 records. And then I'm going to go up here to bulk actions. And it's going to give me the opportunity to save this as a spreadsheet. I'm actually dragging things from the other screen. You'll have to excuse me. This is what the file looks like. Very important, it has the email address. The email address is the key, the unique key that makes sure that the records are going to me and not to somebody else. Okay, I'm going to rename this. I always rename this enrollment list, doesn't mean anything to me, so I'll just go to Learn Rex and I'll say Kelty Dim. That looks good to me. I'll know what that is later on. I've got tons of records in there. Okay. Now, having done that, I am done with the LMS. So I'm just going to click this off. There's not a whole lot I can do with the LMS, it being a third-party thing. So sometimes people say, "Oh, you're programming Learn." I said, "No, I don't program Learn. I can't do that. They don't send me a paycheck, and they don't give me permission to do that." So. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up SQL Server Management Studio. I'm going to go to my TPS demo database and right-click, go to Tasks, Import Data. I'm going to import the records in that spreadsheet to a local table, a table I just used to process all of this stuff. I'm going to say I want to import from Microsoft Excel. I want to import the data from the spreadsheet that I just created. First row has column names. Yep, it sure does. I'm going to put that in SQL Server. I use SQL Server Native Client because it works pretty well. TPS demo, yes, that's the database that I'm working with. Next, I'm not going to create a new table. I already have a table that I call Learn Transcript, or Learn Trans, just to save myself a few seconds in typing. I'm going to delete the rows of the destination table. I do have some logic that doesn't re-enter records, but I just, it's a good idea. Note that I just named everything the same. It just makes everything a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to go next, and finish, and it will import 36 rows. That's exactly the number that was in the spreadsheet, so that looks good. Okay, so now that is done, I can go over to my training and personnel system, and I can bring up my process learn recs form, and even actualizarlo. And what you'll see here is early state in the record set, latest state in the record set. I did that just because in my process of moving the records, sometimes I'll say forget when the last time I did it was. So I can always just go and see what records are in there now, and that'll kind of give me an idea of the date where I need to start. So for instance, in this case, it's actually November. If I was doing everybody and I saw this, I would say, oh my gosh, I have not done this since October 15th. So I need all the records since October 15th. That would be quite a bit. But in this case, I'm just doing me. So that is what I use that for. Also over here where it says last printer procedure, that has to do with this sucker down here. I haven't run this procedure on this demo database yet, so it doesn't have anything, but it will tell you when the last time I clicked this button is. Down here where it says on records, maybe employees who have left, blah, blah, blah. What that is, as I already told you, I need to have that email address in order to know who it is. And what this is telling me is that you have a new person who's already taken training, and we do try to get people to take training right away so that they can be ready to work on day one. So that oftentimes means that the person is new into my personnel database, and I haven't actually gone in and put in their email address into their profile yet. And that's all it means. 99% of the time, that's all it means. Sometimes it can mean that there is a training record in there for somebody who has been fired. And in that case, it's not a matter of just putting the email address in their profile. It's a matter of going in there and just deleting it. I should figure out a way to just get rid of that, but so far it hasn't been worth the effort. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click this Add Learn Recs to Recs and Training button, and what this is going to do, we'll say done, and go back to SQL Server. What this does is I have in the interface of the app, I call this stored procedure sp add learn recs, and what this is doing is it is using two different queries. One query takes advantage of this table I have here, which is a table of requirements that I have in my training and personnel system, and the learned code. The learned code is the sort of course code of the record in the LMS. And it's kind of a crosswalk of this class in learn is associated with this requirement in the database. You'll notice that there can be multiple classes that will satisfy a requirement. That is, and sometimes it's just one. So, and occasionally I'm the one who creates the course in the LMS, so I'm the one who creates the course code, but a lot of times we're taking advantage of something that's already there. So you'll get this rather esoteric sort of codes like SVL underscore blah, blah, blah. Okay. And of course, a class can actually satisfy multiple requirements in some cases. And that also, you just have to put the requirement and the course code, and you just keep piling them up. And that will get added to the query, which handles the records as requirements. There's a second query which handles all the records that don't satisfy a requirement, and in that case it's just what I call a training ticket. So it's just a list of you took this training at this time, didn't satisfy a requirement, maybe you had continuing education units, and that's great, but it's just something that you took, and it's also going to be reflected in the report. And of course I had a little thing that says learn last add. That's the last time I push the button. It just enters the date and the system user. Okay, so I've done that. Let's go back to my training and personnel system. I'm going to go to that report, which you saw before. And notice that I have all sorts of new stuff here. These are the expiring requirements. These are the ones that are, say, annual or every 3 years. I now have a record showing when that will expire. There's a couple other ones that I only have to take one time. It just shows the date that I took it. Still have in this system, because I don't have any records, some untaken requirements. Not everything that we use is in the LMS. Here's an example of some trainings that I took that do not satisfy a requirement, so they got stuck around here in the training taken. And here's a funny little thing that I do just so that all the records will be seen on the report. I have an extraneous requirements taken portion. These are requirements that I did satisfy. They are requirements, but they are not requirements for me. They are not tied to my position, but they still count as being requirements. So I put them in there. And it's just so all the records are going to show up on this report. Okay, so now we go back to the process learn records form, and here's the other part. It says add certificates to folders. Now here's the situation with that. This is a very common thing in the behavioral health sector. We have lots of licensing. People from licensing come and they want to see all of the records of trainings that people have taken, and they like to look at it and make sure everybody's doing what they're doing. Now what they like to see is certificates. This drives me nuts, but is just how they do things, and so you have to live life on life's terms. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have those certificates for each one of the employees, and we need to have a folder with those certificates organized for them. So what I do, and here I've got inserts. I put all my files into this inserts folder, and then I actually transfer it to another folder. It's sort of a staging area, but I created one just for this example. It's called inserts demo. I'm going to open it up, and you'll see that it has nothing in there. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to click this button that says add certificates to folders. Now what it's going to do, each time this thing pops up, the first thing that it did, I should show you, is it went through, maybe I can actually show you the code as well, maybe not. Access front ends are a little bit funky if you're using them. It doesn't want to move around. But okay, I fire off this stored procedure that says set sp check directory exists, and what it does is it goes to that folder and it says here is a new employee or an employee. Does this employee have a folder? And if it doesn't have they don't have a folder, then it creates one for them. And when I first started out, all I was doing is dealing with training records, so I just created that folder. But as time went by, our HR department decided, as you can see, to add a whole bunch of other folders to this folder because they started to like these folders. And so I had to create a training folder. And what I did is I just created a PowerShell script that went through and took all the records that were already in the sort of open folder and moved them to the training folder. I also created all these other folders. And now I've added it to the sp check directory exists logic. So if there's a new employee, they get all these folders, all these, let's see, 6 different folders. And from now on, those certificates go into the training folder, and I'll show you in a bit how that works. Okay, let's go back to this. It looks like it. It has a nice little flashy done thing that happens here when it's done, but it looked like it already went. So now let's go over and look at that inserts demo folder that had nothing in it. Now it has Kelty Michael. That is a new folder that it just created for me. I'm going to open it up. Here are those 6 folders. I'm going to open up the training folder, and here are all of those certificates. Let me show you what this one looks like. This one is Person-Centered Practices in Recovery, and I took it on 2/16/2021. The licensing people love those iCandy certificates. So that is kind of what is going on. I should say that I do have a couple of different functions that I put into SQL Server to make sure that the files names work. You can't have too many weird characters in here, but that's easy enough to do. And that basically is the whole thing. Hopefully, that shows you a little bit of the kind of stuff that I do. Thank you very much.